I hope you're having a superb holiday season. Today we're going to be taking a look at my best of cheap, or more accurately, inexpensive fans, because we all want high quality but don't want to overspend. So these are the best fans under $18. Let's get right into it. First up is my cooler testing. So this is airspeed going through my CPU cooler, because at this time I don't have any test systems to really get that thermal data. If you would like to help support this channel, please think about joining me as a YouTube member, subscribing, or joining as a Patreon. Any money that comes to this channel through supers or whatever does go directly into the fund to, well, help with that funding of the testing methodology. But let's get right back to the data. So these are the best fans under $18, like I said at the very beginning. The red lines indicate noise normalized at my 10 decibel mark, and the green indicates the noise normalized value at the 18 decibel mark. And these are normalized for the room sound, because I'm not in a test environment. It's just my home office, so there's a little bit of variance there. So I cancel that out as best as I am able to. So the very best of the best is the P14 Max in both results. Then we have the P12 Max White with the fluid dynamic bearing. Not to be mistaken, the old version with the dual ball bearings. I found that one to be noisier. The P12, the Pure Wings 3 120, the TLK12, the TLS12W. Oh, I think I have that listed twice for some reason. P12 ARGB, and the TLE12B Extreme. And you can see the other models that are listed below it. So the results are kind of average towards 2 parts for the 10 decibel mark, 1 part for the 18, which is why you see a little bit of wiggle woggle going on in there. But this is how I rank these fans. Then we have the best of fans at 800 RPM. This graph was a viewer suggestion, so if you have suggestions as to specific views, data points, whatever that you'd like to see, or the way the analysis is done, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. I'll see if I can roll it into it without ballooning my video lengths. But over here we have the weighing factor for how the fans' scores are weighed. So I do take into account a little bit of that noise performance in this. And as another special note, these are airspeeds going through the U12A. And at this time, the airspeeds traveling through my Radiator, the Nemesis 140 GTX, I have found to be near on equivalent to the airspeeds going through the air cooler. This doesn't mean that the cooling potential of the two devices are the same. It just means that the air speed going through it is the same. So here, the best fan at 800 RPM is the Kazi Flex 140. Then we have the ZF 12025 Pastel Unifan BR Digital. Or actually, that is just BR Digital. That isn't a Unifan yet. Kaze Flex 2, ARGB 120, F14, and so on and so forth as we come down. Next, we're taking a look at the same thing, but this time at 1500 RPM. The weighing factor has shifted a little bit more towards airspeed as opposed to noise for this graph. We got the P14 Max, the F14, Kaze Flex, CF V12HP. I don't think that fan is available anymore, but it's an older fan that I particularly liked. Let me see, it's been quite a long time actually, more than 10 years ago. TLC14, M25 140, and so on and so forth as we go down the line. Not too much variation in airspeed. Next we have the 2000 RPM mark. So you'll start seeing some fans drop away because they just don't have that same maximum RPM. Weighing factor again is over there. P14 Max, TLB12 Extreme, Kaze Flex 2 120, P12 Max FDB Edition, and you can see the other models as you go down. Next, the fans that are under $18 that can hit that 2,500 RPM mark. There aren't very many fans that can hit this high. Mind there aren't that many to begin with, but there are even few at this particular price point. So you're basically limited to the P14 Max, the TLB12 Extreme, the P12 Max fluid dynamic bearing, and the original P12 Max with a dual ball bearing, with the noise levels at each level indicated. And of course, we have the weighing factor on the other side. So if you're trying to reach the peak performance, but you're on a budget, the P14 Max is really the best option to go with. assuming it'll fit whatever radiator or cooling device you plan on using. If that doesn't fit, then I do recommend either the TL-B12 Extreme or the P12 Max, obviously. And now best of the best at 100% of each of the fans' own individual maximum RPMs. So this means that some fans might not spin fast, but they might be able to blow the same amount of air as a different fan. So it allows a little bit of shakeup in some of these results. Like if we take a look at the M25, it punches a little bit of its weight class at 1,700 RPM, where it's surrounded by 2,000 RPM fans. But at the very pinnacle, tippy top of the graph, we got the P12 Max white fluid dynamic bearing, and it achieved 3,250 RPM in my testing sample at 31 decibels. Again, normalized for the room volume. Then we got the P14 Max, not too far behind it, the TL-B12 Extreme, P12 Max dual ball bearing version, Kaze Flex 120, Kaze Flex 140, Wonder Snail, and you can go through the very best. So these are just the pinnacle at 100% PW fan signal. Now we're looking at performance for the CPU cooler versus noise. This isn't all the fans, it's just a sample selection, otherwise this graph would be near on impossible to read, so I limited down, and I have the rankings table over on the other side. It goes from worst ranking to better ranking, from high to looking down on that graph, or table I should say. So we got the P14 Max. It is sitting at the top. Then we have the P12 Max fluid dynamic bearing, and the orange line is the TL-B12 Extreme, and at the worst end of it is kind of like this TLG12, which is one of my best budget picks. And you can see it's just a little bit lower than them. Doesn't have the same kind of top end as some of the other fans, but it may be sufficient for your needs as a replacement fan or what have you. But generally speaking, you want to sit right in the middle of the kind of the grouping here. So that would be fans like the M25 140, what's this X1, the TLK12, that's sitting just a little bit nicer in that middle of the pack situation. Same data, just taking a look at it in SON. SON is just a different way of taking a look at noise data. I have a whole video about SON versus decibels. So if you're really interested in how it compares, I do recommend you check that out. Basically, the end result is that louder noises stretch off here to the right side, while in decibels, it's a logarithmic system. So that means every 10 decibels is a doubling noise volume, but it kind of squishes the data more packed together on a graph. So it just kind of shows that some of these fans get particularly noisy, and it's kind of up to you to decide how noisy is too noisy. Now we're taking a look at performance through my case simulation test. So this is blowing air down a box that simulates a computer case. And I've taken the data points at 4 key measurement locations, the 6, the 9, the 11, and the 14.5 inch mark, where they represent different size computer cases. The 6 inch mark represents a short throwing distance, like blowing air from the bottom of your case up towards your GPU, or just a really compact, like ITX front to back airflow type case. Then we have the 9 inch mark, that is a compact tower. Think something that can only hold an ATX motherboard and not any extra room in that case. Then we have the 11 inch mark, that's your standard mid towers. A 360 AIO would be very applicable, fitting in that size computer case. And then we have the 14.5 inch mark, where you'd be looking at being able to fit 3 140, so that would be like a 420 radiator, so just a really long computer case. So you do want to pay special attention to what size computer case you actually plan on building in, for which data point to pay the most attention to. So kind of the best overall best that we have on here is the TLS12W. It does really well at the 6, the 9, and the 11 inch marks, but as we hit bigger cases, it just doesn't quite hold up nearly as well. For the biggest cases, you want the P14 Max at this 10 decibel normalized mark. It holds up the best, but you notice that it isn't the best in all the other categories. It's actually second at the 11-inch mark. Then you have a bunch of fans that kind of trade blows that sit somewhere in the middle. But any one of these fans you should more or less be happy with, unless you're looking at, what's this one at the X? The M25 140, is that it? That's what I want to see with an X. So it just doesn't do quite as well in the larger cases, but in the smaller, shorter ones, it does okay. So just want to pay attention. I'd be looking at this tight grouping as the primary fans we want to take a look at. Same sort of data, just now at that higher noise level, that 18 decibel mark. And now the better fan is the TLB12 Extreme, except for at the absolute biggest cases. It's in second place. And so first place actually goes to the AP140i. So this is a Silverstone fan that has their focusing channel fins at the back of it and helps focus that airflow for maximum, lack of a better term, penetration power. It just doesn't allow the air to spread out nearly as much as an unguided airflow. But you notice that it isn't the strongest at every single category. It's only in those bigger computer cases. And in third place for the biggest computer cases, you actually get the P14 Max. But it's trading blows in good places. The weakest performer in this top tier category does belong to the F12, and that is the Arctic F12. It just is the weakest in this grouping, but it would still be a top performing fan because it's, well, it's limited data. So if you have it, it's still good. It's just not the best. So it is up to you to decide what is sufficient. You don't need to replace fans just because, like, oh, it scored last on a graph. So if you're happy with it, then it's fine. If you're building a new computer case, that's where this is a little bit more applicable. So just like we saw with the cooler testing, we have the new data graphs for 800 RPM mark. And the best at this is the F14, then the TLB14, TLC14, TLE12B Extreme, TLS12W, and you can see how they overranked. The data points on here are for the 6 and the 11-inch marks. And then for 1500 RPM, we got the AP140i, the F14, TLC14, TLB14, Tough Fan 14, TLB12 Extreme, and the TLS12W would be the top picks. Jumping to the 2000 RPM mark, we got the Tough Fan 14, TLB12 Extreme, TLE12B Extreme, and the P14 Max with other fans listed below. And at the rip-roaring 2500 RPM, again, not very many options at this level. So we're left with the TLB12 Extreme, P14 Max, P12 Max dual ball bearing, P12 Max white with the fluid dynamic bearing. The white color doesn't actually matter. It's just what color it was for the testing. And now we have the 9-inch mark, airflow versus that decibel rating. And this is how the fans ranked overall in my testing methodology, how I'd rank them for which one I want to use in a case airflow. And I would rank the TLB12 Extreme as the best, followed by the AP140i, P14 Max F14 from Arctic, TLS12W, and the TLE12B Extreme as being the top picks. And you can see how many of them and other fans over here do line up on this graph. Any fans you see with a little joggle, so I'm going to use the TLG12, where if you follow right to here, it hits 15 decibels and then it jumps back. That's where the fan hits a harmonic or a resonant frequency within it. And it's an indicator of a little bit of, the indicators for are a little bit of loudness. And then when you get past it, the fan gets quieter. And due to limitations in my test methodology, I only test every 10 PW fan signal. So some of these fans may have harmonics, but they're just not discoverable in the testing methodology, which is why as I get more popular and grow as a channel, I want to test at every 5 PW fan signal, but that also doubles the amount of time that all the testing takes. It's just a little bit outside of what I can do at this time. Same data set, but this time we're taking a look at it in Zone. Again, it just allows us to see how much louder some of these fans are. Well, it crushes these fans together that are at these lower noise levels, just showing that it doesn't really matter that much, that it's like, oh no, it's 1 decibel when we're taking a look at such a quiet noise level, you're not actually going to detect that. So that's the point of like this graph right here. Now we're on to value. So value is just performance per dollar. So it's not actual performance. So don't use this if you're trying to buy a cheap high performance computer, because a fan that is cheap enough is going to perform incredibly well in these graphs, even though its performance might be crap. While a very expensive fan would have to perform absurdly well to do well in these graphs. So take it all with a little bit of grain of salt. It's just a way of showing to get the best bang for your particular buck. So up here, the very best is the TLC12CS, and then we have the TLS12S variant, TLE12B Extreme, TLS12W. The W just stands for white. The S12S is a more blinged out RGB version of the regular S12. That one was a little bit confusing. The TLG12, the Flow FA12, and you can see other models listed on here as well. And we have the same thing for the 11-inch mark, and we do see shifting of fan placements. Then we have performance through the CPU cooler in value proposition. We're at noise normalized average, so it's the kind of average score between the 18 and the 10 decibel marks, while cooler at 100% is just 100%. So the TLC12C, the TLS12, the TLE12B Extreme, the TLS12W, the TLG12, all these are kind of sitting at the tippy top, and you can notice at 100%, they're also sitting at the top. But you do see some fans shift around a position as we move up. And I know this is a wall of graphs, but this is kind of the wrapping up of the video. And it's sort of the raw data, the placement, and I'm going to walk you through each of the levels. So over here on the left top area, we have the best overall. So this takes the average scoring of each of the type of tests. So the cooler testing for 100% and the noise normalized, I did not average out the 800, 15, 2000, 2500s. They were completely ignored for this testing, or this averaging. And then I took into account the performance through the case simulation test for, again, the noise normalized values and at 100%. To get which ones would be the best if you were to buy one fan to fit everyone in your computer case, which one should it be? And the best one is the P14 Max, followed by the TLE12B Extreme, then followed by the TLB12 Extreme, then the TLS12W, and you can see how they rank going down. The next one is the best through the cooler at my noise normalized values. And the best, so this time we're starting at the bottom and going up for going best to worst. This sort of placement left middle, P14 Max, then followed by the P12 Max Fluid Dynamic Bearing, P12, Pure Wings 3, TLK12, TLS12s, P12 ARGB, TLE12B, and you can see how they rank going up to the 27th position. Then we have that same performance data, but this time for the 800, 1500, 2000, and 2500 marks. They once again start off at the bottom as the best position and working our way to worst, the worst being 27th. I forget out of how many. at least more than 34. Followed by to 100%, which is the rightmost and the top. All right, now we're onto the bottom. The bottom is through the case simulation test. These go, the first two are noise normalized, and they go best to worst, top down, with my video host disclaimer thing right there in the middle between noise normalized 10.5 decibels and noise normalized 18 decibels. And you can see like the TL-B12 Extreme, AP140i, P14 Max, and so on and so forth. And then we have it for that little bit higher noise level and some change up in positioning. And we can see the 800, 1500, 2000, and 2500. It's reversed, flipped again. So this time the best is at the bottom and the worst is at the top to the rank of 34. So I hope that kind of clarified things. This is just pulled right off of my Excel data sheets, and it's a lot of extra steps that I don't really have time for, unfortunately, to reorganize it so that it's always the same thing. You may not think it's a lot of time, but when this channel is not paid for, there's no sponsorships, there's no nothing. I get a small amount with like $1 per video from YouTube ads. So if you like the idea of what I'm doing, would like to see this channel grow, that sort of thing, do think about joining as a Patreon or YouTube member, or just throwing a super my way, because it really does help this channel like get to a sustainable level, which is kind of my end goal at this point. Other than that, if you got questions, leave it in the comment section, or I have a Discord page. You can chat with me there. I'm happy to talk about fans or computer cases or whatever, because, well, right now for this season, I'm casually thinking about an upgrade since I'm still rocking 11700K. But that's beside the point. Thank you very much for watching my video, and I'll have more fan videos coming out throughout, well, the year. And come around mid-summertime, I'll have a new best of. So I hope you'll join me for those videos. Have a great day.